Check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Noor, can you just ask them to speak on channel 3 English?
Hello, this is the English channel, Catherine speaking. Thank you.
You.
Hey, hey.
He's coming in 1 minute.
Are you sure?
Good afternoon, Excellencies. We just need a minute or two, just waiting for the DG to join us, and then we'll start soon. Good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we all had a pleasant lunch, and I now want to declare this afternoon session open. My name is Tom Alwendo, Minister of Mines and Energy from the Republic of Namibia, and I would like to start this session by thanking the President of the Assembly, first for inviting me to preside over this Ministerial Roundtable in my capacity as one of the Vice President of the 15th Assembly. I now invite the Assembly to turn to agenda item number 7, Ministerial Roundtable on Accelerating Africa's Energy Transition and Green Industrialization Agenda. The Assembly has before it a background document with the same title contained in document A/15/BN/2. The Ministerial Roundtable will take stock of APRA's implementation a year after its launch and present key outputs from its national consultative process and project facilitation engagements. It will also provide a platform for outlining the national priorities of APRA countries and for raising interest and support from potential partners to contribute to the achievement of APRA's objectives. Within this context, high-level representatives from APRA countries and also from global stakeholders will discuss how collective action can amplify individual efforts. I would now like to invite the Director General to deliver his opening remarks. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I hope that the script is the right one for this meeting. I think yes. It is once again a great pleasure to welcome you all to this distinguished roundtable to discuss where we stand with APRA. You know, I think that APRA has been until now an amazing journey. From the inception of where we are, I think we have been able to show, thanks to the leadership expressed by partners like Denmark, by Germany, the UAE, the US, that it's possible to put renewables at the top of the priority into the energy revolution in Africa. And I think it's the main goal that we wish to achieve. When first, under the leadership of President Ruto, during the African Summit in September last year, we couldn't believe. No? A few years ago, we were thinking about gas as a solution, this sort of transition fuel. And then suddenly, African countries came and say, we can do not 3, we can do 5. This was fantastic. So this is a tremendous journey. And I hope that I will leave it to Safi that is leading our work in the agency on APRA to give you an overview of what has been achieved until now. But I hope that a meeting like this that will refresh also the proudness of what you as a member of APRA, as partners of APRA, has been achieved in this year, will be also the occasion to have others join us. You know, we have new partners that has given me extremely pleasure to say that Japan has given to APRA a substantial financial contribution. I've received a letter just 2 days ago. That I think is a sign that we are there. We are attracting interest, and we will continue working effectively. So these are just the few words that I wish to share with you, and I will give back to Chair to one country that's been with us from the beginning, that are leading the challenge of green hydrogen in Africa. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Director General, for your remarks. I now would like to invite Ms. Sophie Azuma, Special Advisor to the DG on Energy Transition, Climate and Green Industrialization in Africa, to give us a scene-setting presentation. Sophie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Excellency Chair. Good afternoon, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It is my pleasure to give you an overview of what we have achieved during the 1 year of implementation of APRA, as highlighted by the Director General and His Excellency, the Chair of the session. Just a brief introduction on about APRA. APRA is an African countries-led international partnership of government and stakeholders working together to advance the deployment of renewable energy in order to, first of all, enhance access to energy, secondly, to enable the green industrialization, and thirdly, to improve the economic and overall societal resilience. So, for doing so, APRA is a platform that provides for political leadership to drive actions, to innovate and promote new models of cooperation. Through APRA, we will mobilize actions and commitment, and as well as the coordination of the international support. Thirdly, APRA will help to provide tailored country-driven support, accelerating the renewable energy transition, aligning them with the national priorities and the existing initiative. All this together should help us to achieve meaningful systemic changes on the continent. In terms of membership, up to end of October, we had 7 countries, but during the COP in Baku, 2 new countries joined us. So currently we have 9 African member countries, or if I start from the Southern African side up to the Western African side, so we have Namibia, we have Zimbabwe, we have Kenya, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Mozambique. We have 4 funding partners who really were with us from the beginning, precisely Denmark, Germany, UAE, and US. And then we have other kind of supporting partners. Amongst them, we have the funding, we have also implementing partners. The list is there. So basically, this includes GAP, Rockefeller Brothers Fund, NDC Partnership, Tufts University, SC for All, Climate Analytics, GIZ, Danish Energy Agency, and Power Shift Africa. The Secretariat was hosted by IRENA until recently. But now, there is an office which is under establishment in Nairobi to support the activities of IRENA, precisely the implementation of the initiative in the countries. So our first engagement with the countries started with, what we call our country consultations. So for the 7 countries, we've conducted country consultation to define where we brought in all the relevant stakeholders in the countries. The process was led by the country. So they have selected all the relevant stakeholders from public, private, as well as the partners that are actively involved in the field of renewable energy and the climate discussion in the country. We sat together with them, we discussed and identified the priorities for the countries. And those priorities have been transformed into country action plans. So far we have developed action plans for the 7 countries. And those action plans, they represent, they are like a kind of blueprints for renewable energy advancement in the country, because they provide a cohesive strategy to fast track the renewable energy deployment and green industrialization based on the priorities of the countries. And you will see that, when we zoom deep into, the content of those action plans. Secondly, they are consensus-driven with a multi-stakeholder approach, the way, as I just explained, the way, they have been, the priorities have been identified and the development of the action plans. It's really through inclusive, consultative approach with government, implementing partners, and so on. Thirdly, they are accountable and progressive. Accountable because through them, we will establish mechanisms for coordinating activities and the regulatory assessment of the implementation. That will help the countries to see where they stand, what they want to do, are they really moving, and also it will help also to coordinate also the activities of the partners in the countries, to avoid, or let's say to minimize the duplication we are seeing now. So they are progressive in a way that they are living documents. So they can be updated at any time, as soon as a priority raises from the countryside. I don't know if you can see them properly, but so far, within those 7 countries, we received 334 requests in terms of priority actions. And the first pie gives the repartition, the spread by country. So for instance, it's too small to read, I know. For instance, in Rwanda, we have 25 actions, in Zimbabwe 29, Kenya 34. Sorry, I cannot read all of them, it's really a bit small. Then the second pie gives us what we started doing, like our own analysis of those actions. So we cluster them per thematic. So we come up with 5 thematics: project preparation and facilitation, data and statistics, power sector development, industrialization and manufacturing, as well as nexus and access. So under nexus and access, we have all actions that are related to access or the usage of renewable energy for other sectors such as agriculture, mining, fishery, and so on. So those ones are clustered under nexus and access. So you can easily see that, project preparation takes the lead in terms of a request, followed by the power sector development. And that really shows the level of development of, let's say, of ambition of our APRA countries. The third one is the industrialization and manufacturing. So here we have the classification of the requests per country and per thematic. For instance, if we take the first country, Ethiopia, we can easily see that power sector development takes the lead, followed by project preparation and facilitation. The third one is for nexus and access. In Ghana, project preparation takes the leads, followed by power sector development and nexus the third. Now, if I go to Namibia, in Namibia, we have the green part which really takes the lead. The green part is the industrialization and the manufacturing, followed by the nexus and access, and then project preparation. So, it gives really, like a kind of a picture of what the country aims to do in a very visual way. So one of the key achievements of this year is the APRA Investment Forum that was held in Kenya in October last October. So during that investment forum, 25 new renewable energy projects with more than 1 gigawatt prospective, with a combined capacity of 1 gigawatt, and the overall budget of 2.6 billion have been featured, and they have been really promoted to prospective financiers. Currently, we are monitoring the involvement, the development of those projects. Thoroughly, we are monitoring the development of those projects. So if we look at those projects in deep, in Zimbabwe, for instance, we have 12 projects, and they are all from solar PV. In Sierra Leone, we have 4 projects, 4 hydropower projects. In Rwanda, we have 1 hybrid solar and hydro project. In Namibia, we have 1 wind project. In Kenya, we have 3 projects, and we can see that Kenya has the largest, in terms of capacity, because there is a big geothermal wind project, there. The extension of Turkana Lake project, which is the Milele project, 400 megawatt project. Ethiopia has 3 projects, solar, geothermal, and the other one I can't see properly the color, sorry, it's a bit small to read. So these are really the requirements in terms of priority from the countries as well as investment as part of the result of our first investment forum in Kenya. So far, I mentioned 4 partners supporting us: Denmark, Germany, United Arab Emirates, and the United States. So the commitment that they have made are as follows. Denmark, they committed to align their priorities with the priorities that are identified. Sorry, their intervention in the countries with the priority identified by APRA country through the consultations. They are supporting the operation of the Secretariat, and also they are supporting project financing through a facility which is based, the African Development Bank, the CEFA, as well as they are providing technical assistance through their technical entity, the Danish Energy Agency. Germany also agreed to align its intervention with the project priorities identified through APRA. They are supporting the operation of the Secretariat, precisely the unit that is under development in Nairobi. And they are also supporting, they plan to provide technical assistance through their technical agencies. UAE committed to provide 4.5 billion USD financing for project, but that one is broad, it's for the entire continent. So, but it includes APRA countries because they are on the continent. US, it's they committed to align their intervention with the priorities that are defined. So really, the demand is huge. We have partners that are really planning to support. And as the DG said, recently we received a commitment from Japan to support the operation of the Secretariat for an amount of 1.4 million USD. So, which leads us really to a call for action. For us really to deliver on the ambitions of the Nairobi Declaration and to ensure that all APRA countries, they succeed on their energy transition pathway and reap the socio-economic benefits, it is really crucial for us to remain coordinated and focused on delivering measurable progress in line with the priorities of APRA countries. We really call upon all APRA stakeholders and interested partners to join forces for Africa's socio-economic transformation. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ms. Azuma, for that insightful presentation. We are now aware that, a year after the inauguration of APRA, a lot of things has happened and continue to happen. And as you say, it's about action. Now, Excellency, during the next segment of this Ministerial Roundtable, we will hear insights from a high-level panel of speakers on the subject matter. The discussion will be moderated by Mr. John Defterius, followed by reflections and closing remarks. I therefore look forward to the discussions, which I am certain will be insightful and compelling. Let me now hand over the moderator, Mr. Defterius, to take us through the insightful intervention. And therefore, John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Minister. We're going to call on you here shortly for your analysis, of course, for the country. But as Vice President of the Assembly, congratulations for the work done. I want to thank the Director General for the invitation to do this. Those that from ARENA here in the UAE, because I was based here for 10 years, know this is a subject near and dear to my heart. Energy access is vital. Last year, we had a record $570 billion of investment, but just over 1% went to Africa, so it doesn't work. And you cannot have a just energy transition without Africa at the forefront of it, at the core, and a concrete action plan. Safi and team, Ahmed, it's great that you at APRA have done this so quickly with 9 members, 7 who have already declared it. The updates of the NDCs this year will help accelerate it. And we often talk about PPPs and getting action done. This is something of both action, as the minister was saying, and cooperation, supported by our friends here around the table, Denmark, Germany, the UAE, and the US, as well as those outside of government, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, and the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation. I think is extraordinary. It's an example of what can be done in a short period of time, and it's needed. Just for quick structure, we'll probably finish at 4:30 or maybe 5 minutes late. But I'm going to ask you to make your contributions at 2 to 3 minutes only. So respect it, please. You can do it spontaneously, or you can use it off a written word. But do adhere to the time because we won't make our completion. I'd like to even have 5 minutes at the end for those who want to provide some additional analysis, if you'd like. We're going to do 2 rounds here. The first one is 40 minutes, so keep an eye on the clock. I certainly will do it for you. In the first round, we're dealing with what systemic changes are needed to attract the necessary capital for transformative renewable energy projects that align with Africa's broader economic and development goals. And in the second, which is a shorter group, and it'll be 25 minutes in that session, what arrangements are necessary to ensure the effectiveness of the support given by the countries in line with their national priorities and for the long-term sustainability of APRA. This is not a flash in the pan. It's something that ARENA wants to carry the flag to. I want to remind our speakers, please have your headsets ready because we have His Excellency, the Minister from Djibouti, will be speaking French. But I'd like to start with the Minister from Sierra Leone, and a familiar face because of his prior work, of course, in the development communities. Now the chairman of the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy, and Food Security for Sierra Leone, His Excellency Dr. Kande Yumkela. It's good to see you again, sir. Floor is yours for up to 3 minutes. Thanks.
I used to moderate with you. Now I have to sit on the other side. Well, for me, the experience we had in Nairobi was great. The speed with which ARENA moved to come into our countries, work with us to do the assessments. I was lucky. Francesco himself came with Safiatou, so the leadership was very clear. The experience from Kenya showed that the countries came with projects with feasibility study done with the best of expertise you can find. Challenge, guarantees. A number of the investors wanted sovereign guarantee or some kind of partial risk guarantee coverage. And I see that in many African countries. Projects are ready. The enabling environment has been done. Regulations have been improved. All the required regulations are in place, like our country. But investors are asking for guarantees. We don't have them. So that's one challenge I see immediately that we need to address. I know Germany is working on some universal facility. I also want to say thank you to the partners. We had immediate support on the reforms we need to do. The Danish Energy Agency, Power Africa, they moved very fast. But we are approaching this in 2 ways. We're looking at bulk power for industrialization and our mining. Our mining sector needs over 500 megawatts in the next 6 years. All of that could be renewables. That's why you see our portfolio is very heavy on hydro. We can green those mining. But again, that's bulk power. The demand is there. We need the support. At this other end, we're getting a lot of support from the EU, from Denmark, And now the World Bank is stepping in on decentralized energy solutions. It is clear that we are going to need a lot of DRE solutions. We have set up an ambitious target to do about 200 more mini grids as we push bulk power. We want to do 200 more mini grids. We're getting support from Mazda, UAE, looking at bulk power for the mining sector. They're looking at putting in 80 megawatts of solar. We're working with their company Mazda and Infinity. So GAP and Germany are also helping us with coordination. With these investment projects, you're going to need expertise to package them, to be able to engage in that deal making. Sometimes we don't have that financial knowledge and skill. So I just highlighted in our context what some of the challenges are. We have strong leadership. My president himself is the Minister of Energy. So for me, political will is very clear. It's easier for me in that sense to coordinate, but hey, we need real cash. We need to move fast and we're ready.
Great. Dr. Candy, if you can keep your microphone open just very quickly for a follow-up with you. How about the currency risk? This is something that gets a lot of complaints. I know the African Development Bank's been working really hard to try to support the local banks and the IGOs. How do we accelerate this process? And does ESG actually block investment? As a result, the institutions are staying away because of some of the risks you talked about.
The exchange rate risk is real, and it's affecting the mini grid space even more. We have operators there that are struggling because of the exchange rate risk, and of course, the last 2 years because of high inflation as well. So that risk is real. I don't see enough instruments to help us mitigate that yet. I don't see institutions stepping forward. There are a lot of experiments, but I've not seen real solutions to help us cover that exchange rate risk. On the issue of willingness to even take up some of those projects, the processes are still a little bit long. For the bigger project, the ESG requirements are more complicated. So again, if we can have accredited institutions that can move faster on the bigger projects. I have to emphasize, we need utility scale renewables if we're talking industrialization. Mini grids will not do that. And when you go into that bulk energy space, then you begin to run into the problems of meeting the ESG requirements.
Great. I appreciate your candor. Please grab your headsets for the translation device for His Excellency Jonas Al-Kuwaiti. It's the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources in Djibouti. If you can go ahead and do that so you can get the translation. Your Excellency, Mr. Jonas, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bon après-midi à tous. Cher directeur général de l'IRENA, chers collaborateurs, chers
Good
contreparties
afternoon
ministres.
to all of you, dear collaborator, dear moderator. Thank you to all of you. It's a real pleasure and joy for us to attend this APRA meeting, and I would like to start with congratulating the DG and all the members who agreed to support acceleration in Djibouti within the APRA. As you said yourself, we have a lot of questions in Djibouti, a lot of issues in the rest of Africa concerning funding investments about renewables. We have a new project of a 60 megawatt wind energy, a solar project, 20 megawatts, and we hope to reach 50 megawatts by a company from the United Arab Emirates. So we have a vision up to 2035, and I can see that today APRA has to be a kind of a catalyst to develop renewable energy in Africa. But the main issue for investors are the fact that we lack guarantees. The law on independent producers, that we don't have them, and so some countries are not able to repay the investors and have a huge debts. So it is a real problem. So we have problem paying also the consumption. We can put a meter, then we can't pay the energy consumption. We have a new act, but there are a lot of concerns for all the African countries, and we need to attract the right investors about renewable energy. That's the reason why we need reforms. We have a new act about energy's self-sufficiency to make it possible to have a better involvement of the private sector, as our state budget is not sufficient to finance renewable energies in our countries. Also, the regulation about investments should also be reformed in the African countries. They haven't been modernized, and it would be necessary to make them more attractive and develop our business. Thank you.
Thanks for the interventions, and again, thanks for respecting the time limit. I'd like to come to this side of the table and welcome His Excellency Ole Thonke, Undersecretary for Development Policy from Denmark, and then I'd love to have the interjection from representatives from the UAE right afterwards, and we'll go back and forth across the table, please.
Thank you so much, and great to be here in an APRA setting again. For me, it's amazing to see and listen to all the results that are already there, because reminding ourselves we have only been in real action for a year or so. So I think it's amazing how far we've come. A huge thanks to Irina, but also a huge thanks to the visions of our African partners that has really stepped forward and said we want to do this, and then it's our responsibility really to honor that call. That's how we feel about it. For me, APRA is really unique because it's at one point it's very politically highly profiled. My Prime Minister herself has been in, I think, 2 APRA events and really wants to drive it forward. It has a lot to it, but at the same time, APRA has managed to do a difference on the ground for the countries already now. Our energy agency has already been, as Jon Keller explained, to Sierra Leone and dug in how exactly to do this, and they sent the experts from the Danish Energy Agency, talk to the experts of the Sierra Leone Energy Agency, and they find the solutions on the ground. And I think that's what really is needed, and to have that one-to-one transfer of knowledge and technology is a key thing. It's both on energy planning, it's on modeling, it's on how to integrate it into the grid, etc., etc. Then it's the private sector. We have had several Danish private sector companies who are already interested in this alliance and how does it work, and they actually actively use it to take out projects, and then to have the governments at the same time so that they can in real time listen and understand what is the needs on that side, and to have that private sector government dialogue is really a big win for APRA. For us, I think it was already mentioned by Sophia. You took all my notes on what we are doing, so thank you for that. But I just wanted to mention that we actually have just allocated $13 million to SEFA to go to APRA through the African Development Bank. So we are really happy to see that happening, because that will really scale it up. I also wanted to mention on the guarantee side, because I mean, no matter how safe and we have all the statistics of investments in Africa, the private investors, they still want a guarantee. So we have really worked on beefing up our guarantee schemes from Denmark through the government. We've worked very closely with the United States on a scheme called IMCA, where we provide either a guarantee or grants, and we have recently we are launching one called the Green Value Chains in Africa. That can invest both in utilities, but also in value chains, industrialization in Africa. We have managed to establish $70 million in total, and the whole idea is to use that guarantee and grant as a foundation for private equity managers. So we go to them and say, here is $70 million of guarantee. How much private capital can you leverage on top of that when you know you have that guarantee? And then they can go and invest in the projects through that fund. So we have a lot of high hopes that will actually materialize and really move things forward. So finally, I just want to also call upon other partners to come on board. I'm very happy to hear Japan is joining and really looking forward to that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much again for your directness and your comments as well. Quick follow-up for you. We have Japan joining, but what's the word you would say to get this to the scale that ARETA deserves, and so does Africa, in terms of partnerships?
Yep, I think that the potential is there. I mean, we now have already quite a number of African countries, but they are more willing to join. So I think there's one there. I think we really need to work much more on the guarantee side. So if we can have more partners coming on that front, I think that would be extremely useful for it, because that would showcase that this is actually materializing into real bigger investments on the ground.
Giving its own sustainability. Thanks for taking the question as well. His Excellency Abdullah Bilala is the Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs for Energy and Infrastructure. I found it interesting that they have this now within Foreign Affairs for the ministry. Floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to Abu Dhabi, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by acknowledging my fellow APRA founding members and partners, and of course my dear friend, Mr. Lacamera, the Director General of IRENA. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I think we all agree that one of the major challenges, if not the biggest challenge that we're all facing today, if we want to really triple renewables in Africa, is financing. And I would like to shed the light on some statistics here. Approximately today, 600 million people in Africa lacks access to electricity, which represents 43% of continent's population. Sub-Saharan Africa accounts for 83% of the global population without electricity access. Africa's renewable energy capacity has doubled in the last decade, reaching 72 gigawatt in 2023, yet this represents only 1.6% of the global renewable energy capacity. In 2023, Africa added just 2.7 gigawatt of renewable power capacity. If we are comparing that with G20 countries, it's 413 gigawatt. So the reason I'm showing these statistics is to show how much and how big of a job we have ahead of us. And as my colleagues mentioned earlier, if we are to really move a needle into this and define a priority to fast-track the energy transition in Africa, this is doable if we make a meaningful contributions as follows. And these are some of the points we've highlighted. So improving financing mechanisms with increased concessional finance to mitigate risks and improve financing terms, developing and enhancing green financing instruments such as green bonds, sustainability-linked loans, and implementing blended finance, enhancing policy frameworks with clear long-term energy transition plans with milestones and integrated investment planning, strengthening regional cooperation and leveraging the African continental free trade areas to develop regional value chains in renewable energy technologies, building local capacity through investing in skills, development and technology transfer programs, and supporting the growth of local manufacturing and in-country value capabilities, improving project development and enhancing project preparation facilities to develop a pipeline of bankable renewable energy projects. And from here, we have, as a UAE, throughout our public and private sector companies like Masdar, Ameya Power, we do have a large footprint in Africa, and we've we know what it takes in order to triple renewables in there. Last but not least, leveraging natural resources by developing strategies to utilize Africa's abundant solar, wind, and critical minerals resources for green industrialization. The energy landscape in Africa presents both significant challenges, but I have to say with immense opportunities. As we stand, and today we're standing at a crucial juncture, we must build on this momentum. APRA was launched in COP28 in Dubai in 2023 in December, and here we are in Abu Dhabi again. And we have in Africa the Nairobi Declaration and other Africa-led initiatives offer a path forward for us to triple renewables if we are really to meet what we all agreed upon in the global stocktake adopted in the UAE consensus in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up again. I appreciate everybody being so direct with time. How does this dovetail with Altera, if I may, Assistant Minister, and the Global Climate Finance Center, where you can deploy faster? Do you see this? I talked about Masdar and the others here. Aqua Power is very active now in Africa as well. But how do we get the scale that you're hoping for here in the UAE, in your view?
So as you know, Altera was launched in December 2023 by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, the President of the UAE. It's a 30 billion fund, concessional fund towards climate projects. And of course, renewable energy will be part of the 30 billion. As of today, we are working closely with our partners like TPG, BlackRock. It's a fund of funds. And of course, Africa will have a big share of this fund. It's a one-year fund. We are still in the process of finalizing these partnerships, identifying the requirements of the natures of the projects that we want to deploy in Africa. And soon enough, there will be some projects announced, inshallah, within 2025.
Great. Thanks for taking the question. I appreciate that. I'm going to bring in our Vice President of the Assembly and the Minister of Mines and Energy for Namibia, Mr. Alwindo. The floor is yours. Are you ready for that? Thank you.
Yeah. I think I want to talk about the issue of financing again. So I know usually, when we say what should we do to attract capital, we talk about policy, talk about regulations, we talk about skills. Those are normally the three issues people talk about. And those are very necessary. I mean, we need to have those. And I think most of us, we really have done a lot in terms of improving our policy-making processes, our regulations, especially when it comes to permitting issues. It was said that it maybe takes too long, but I think most of us really we have addressed those issues. But yet, the figures that we have now, we still got not much capital coming to the African continent. That's suggesting that, while these are very necessary, but they're not sufficient for us to get that capital. And therefore, the question around the guarantee, it was mentioned by the minister from Sierra Leone, in whatever form that it is. So I really think APRA, well, all of us, that's probably the where we need to concentrate more. I think we have done a lot in terms of policy making and regulations and all that, but I don't think we have sufficiently addressed the issues. Then how do then we address the requirement of the capital owners who want to have guarantees before they can make those investments? And what sort of guarantees is that? Which most of us, unfortunately, aren't in a position to provide. And therefore, we hope together as a collective and through your research, through our arena, let's really address that issues. Let me, for example, take the issue of skills development. We say, like, we need to have the skills. I'm not so sure whether we can really develop the necessary skills in isolation for you having some of this project already be running. It's going to be more effective to develop the skills that are necessary when you are doing this concurrently with having projects are running already, and therefore people learn through those projects. But you cannot say we need to have faith in that people are skilled, but how can they be skilled if there are not anything which can be doing for them to be actually on the job skilling? That's probably what we need to do. But really, by and large, let's really concentrate on what guarantees that Africans can't. And also maybe if this whole thing about renewable energy, if it's really our understanding that is going to address an existential threat to humanity, but it needs investments, we also need to then start to think about the investment that is needed to address something that is so important. Can we really just look at the normal way we look for investment? It's no longer just a normal investment where we're only looking for capital or return on their capital. Yes, there will be a need to return that capital, but it's probably not really going to help us or to move quickly to address the issues. If we continue to look at capital, how it's invested, with the return on that capital, I don't think we're going to make it happening. And again, just to say, together as a collective, what is that we can do to really convince the owners of capital? Also, to start looking at different ways of risks. I think it was said in the opening plenary to say that there's always been this issue about Africa in whatever way. Most people only see risks. Sometimes not really, like, there's no return on investment, but the return on investment in Africa is probably one of the highest return on investment you can get. The absolute return on investment in Africa is much higher than anywhere else. But the risks, I think it's really something which we need to start also really looking at. How do we perceive the risk on the African continent? Is it really that much riskier than anywhere else? So those are my remarks. So thank you.
Good. Just a quick follow-up for you then. Shouldn't the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the regional banks make that as their #1 priority to buffer those risks, right? Shouldn't that be the mandate for these banks to accelerate that process you're talking about?
I would agree, because that, as I say, it requires all of us to change the way we look at how we get this investment going. The IMF and the World Bank, obviously, they also have got programs that also are trying to help African economies to become more dynamic. And I would argue that African economies can become more dynamic, especially if we actually address the issues of the energy poverty. And therefore, I would also make the case to say, especially the World Bank, they actually need really to look at the way they look at the investment on the African continent and maybe try to concentrate on the energy issues and also some of their guarantees that they give. Maybe that guarantee should really be, specifically addressing the investment in the energy sector, so that we can really make sure that at least that capital can come. And once you have got this capital really going, people start to realize that, yes, actually, this can be done. There's 1 or 2 or 3 major energy projects that are being guaranteed by the World Bank, for example. It's working. I think that will then incentivize some other capital owners to actually say, look, this is working. So I agree that, the likes of the World Bank and the IMF probably need to evaluate the way they are looking at the investment profile on the African continent.
Great. Thank you very much for taking the question again. It's great to have you, Dr. Jimmy Gosori, as the Minister of Infrastructure for Rwanda. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. You can correct me if I'm incorrect. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Moderator. Most of statistics have been mentioned by previous speakers. I would just want to mention that Africa has 60% of the world's solar potential, but currently we are only using 1%. We have a vast wind resources, vast hydropower resources in big river like Nile Basin and Congo Basin, and a big potential of geothermal. As it has been mentioned, financing and guarantee is one of the limitation that prevented the scale to the needed scale for renewable energy. Of course, any private investor will need guarantee. So I think one we can explore as African is regional cooperation. The West African power pool is doing great, as I understand. The South African power pool is doing well. The East African power pool is taking shape. I think if we package renewable energies as a regional project in the power pool, can provide a scale, a bigger market, and we also benefit from the economy of scale, which will provide more confidence to investor. This can also be an opportunity for on lending, which means government get financing concessionally from development partners, and they on lend to the developers, which highly reduce the financing cost of the projects. The other thing we can explore is new financing mechanism like green bonds and the carbon credits to take opportunity anywhere to scale renewable energy. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks again. We're taking up that subject, as a matter of fact, on Wednesday at the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week on a session that's being led by Masdar on grid connectivity and regional development, which is a fantastic point on your part to signal it out to this group for APRA. Mr. Marcus Hickens, the Director for Energy Diplomacy, Climate and Security in Germany. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, distinguished audience. I would actually like to start by thanking IRENA for their facilitation efforts in general on the global transformation, energy transformation, but especially on the efforts here with APRA. We in Germany, we are very happily working together with many African countries on access to renewable energies and a socially responsible transformation. And the African ownership in the energy question is actually a key here, and this is why we are so supportive together with our partners on APRA. We need African-led initiatives like that, and I would also say they are a very valuable complement to other existing initiatives to further the expansion of renewable energies. I mean, Europe, just to give one example, has many programs already. For example, the GET program. So. Was just a couple of weeks ago at the COP29 that our State Secretary Jennifer Morgan announced additional funding of 3 million euros for the establishment of the APRA implementation office to be based in Nairobi. Yeah, and this implementation office hosted by UNOPS also includes the establishment of a multi-donor fund to implement APRA's activities in partner countries. So if there we heard already the call for new partners, there are ample opportunities to deposit funds there. Also, Germany will further contribute to additional technical cooperation in APRA countries, and we also try to find innovative blended finance instruments to mobilize private equity. And I would really echo what my Danish colleague and the esteemed minister from Namibia just said. The guarantee issue is a very important issue. I said this in another fora. We have started an initiative called the Green Guarantee Group, which also looks at that issue, and we invite others to join on that. So what's coming now? We would like to invite everybody here on the table to Berlin in March, where we will have the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue. The esteemed minister was our keynote speaker last year already, and we have decided that we will put a spotlight on APRA in this year's conference and continue the strategic discussions we are here. I can just call on other ARENA members to join APRA to really live up to the full potential on green growth in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I have two microphones and I'm juggling here. I think after 30 years I got used to it, but one's not working.
Don't ever panic is the buzzword here. I did raise the African Development Bank, and I wanted to let Mr. Kariuki know that I'd like to bring you into the conversation. I just want to finish with the ministers. I've met with the president, had this conversation at the World Economic Forum in Riyadh, in fact. So I'd love to get you into the debate. So just flagging it, I'd love to get your contribution. Okay, thanks very much. Alex Wachira is the Principal Secretary of the Department of Energy in Kenya. We know the work that's been done in Kenya was flagged by the Vice President as well. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me briefly highlight 2 or 3 things. The number one of the areas where African countries we need to work on, learning from the Kenyan experience, is to ensure that we have strong regulatory bodies. Regulatory bodies that will be able to look at the interest of the investor, price electricity correctly, and at the same time safeguard the interests of the African population. Tailored with that, the distinguished guest and the minister from UAE did give us some good statistics. And the statistics that he was giving is that we are talking about 20% of the world's population. And we are saying 20% of the world's population, 10% or a little bit of it does not have access to electricity. And what is hindering that? What is hindering that is de-risking and investment in renewable energy technologies. Now, Ethiopia, for example, led by Meles Zenawi, did something that Africa we must be able to do so that we bring on board Grand Inga that will be able to power entire Africa into the grid. Meles Zenawi rallied the Ethiopian population, and today Kenya is interconnected with Ethiopia, getting 200 megawatts. We finished our interconnection with Tanzania, and Tanzania is going to get 100 megawatts from the dam. And once Tanzania finishes its interconnector with Zambia, then Zambia is also going to get another 100 megawatts. So if we are able to replicate that by de-risking and providing innovative financing mechanisms, then we can be able to power Africa. And why am I talking about innovative mechanisms? Today in Kenya, KenGen that is able to access, which is government owned, is able to access concessional funding, pushes power up to 67%. However, what in our power bill, what KenGen earns, it earns about 40% of the Kenyan bill. 33% that is injected by the IPPs, and the IPPs are not able to get concessional funding, get 60% of the power of the cost of generation. So you can look, you can see that there is a serious discrepancy here, where 67% of the power is paid for by 40%, and 33% of the power is paid by 60%. This can only be rectified if we are able to bring on board concessional funding, and we're able to bring on board products. For example, we are now de-risking our power projects using the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance. We need many more that will be able to de-risk our geothermal, because that is where we have a challenge. We have a huge potential of geothermal in Africa. Kenya has led, but we still need more financing and more de-risking. Hydro, I didn't mention about Grand Inga. In Kenya alone, we have plans to bring on board the High Grand Falls Dam that will give us 600 megawatts by the year 2032. But what is hindering? Financing. So, distinguished guests, let us tackle the issue of financing and this issue of 20% of the world's population having not access to electricity will be gone. Thank you.
Good. Quick follow-up for you. I appreciate, again, your candor and your directness. Do you find institutional investors are willing to come into Kenya without these mechanisms? But there are investors, international investors, that are willing to come in, or is it development bank led and local investor led?
The investors, they require one product. Other than having the PPA, they require the letter of support And the government letter of support is now what we are substituting using the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance. So that is an innovative product that we have brought on board, and it has helped us now inject, and we're going to inject the first 35 megawatts using the RTD through Mengai, that 5 megawatts geothermal, and next year another 35 is going to come on board through this RTD product. So this is another innovative way that is helping us now run away from the government letter of support.
Good, thanks for taking the question. Seth Mapu is the Director of Renewable Energy for Ghana. Please, thanks.
Thank you very much. I stand on existing protocol to extend Ghana's appreciation to the partners of APRA and also to Irina for working with us, closely to develop our first investment action plan for APRA. This plan aligns very well with our energy transition program, which is anchored on 4 main pillars: energy security, decarbonization, energy access, and overarching economic development. We cannot take out economic development from the energy transition agenda. We are not just putting in capacity because you want to connect people. You also want to use capacity to transform the economics and the social well-being of your people. So this is very important for us. With the initiative, we've been able to identify a number of systemic issues that we have to address going forward to make the market attractive and also bring in the needed investment. I'll be touching base on that briefly, but just to give you some statistics that currently we are having a portfolio of about 1.2 gigawatts of renewable energy, which feasibility studies have been completed or ongoing. And why are we not being able to bring these programs or projects on board quickly? It's the usual issues that we all know: access to finance, access to finance, access to finance. And we think this is one of the issues that we need to look at critically. We need to look within as a continent. I believe strongly that the external supports that are coming in from the partners of APRA is good, but will not be sufficient enough to deliver the kind of transformation we are all looking for. Africa needs to look within. We need to have a capital market that is robust enough to be able to finance, major energy infrastructure projects. Another important issue that I think we need to look at is the off-take risk. This is perceived, or it may be real. I think we need to look at this because most often investors are unable to, bring their projects to financial close and bring them on board because of the fact that off-takers might not be able to, guarantee their investments for them. I think it's important that we look at this in a more proper limelight to come up with strategies, identify what really are the issues, and help the utilities on the continent to have a balance sheet that is credible enough to give guarantee to investors that are willing to come into the market. Another important systemic issue that I think we need to look at, I think my colleagues have touched base on it briefly, is the issue of interconnectivity. You cannot be an island in this dispensation when we are all trying to, transition and address some of the existential threats that face us as human beings. We need to work on our grids. We need to interconnect the grids as clearly as possible. We need to enhance them to be able to accommodate renewable energy, resources. That is very, very important. We also need to do that so we'll be able to have a bigger market, have access to a pool of resources that can enable us, leverage on that and achieve economy of scale for investment in the sector. It is also important that we look at the issue of time. We are pressed with time. 2030, SDG 7, where are we? We have only 5-6 years to go. Are we going to be discussing issues of guarantee? I believe you me, we'll get to 2030 and will not have much to show. I think it's important that we prioritize the element of time and put some targets to allow for projects to be able to reach financial close and get on board. This is very, very important. And we need to juxtapose that on a number of issues. One, energy should be treated as a fundamental human right issue. We need to make sure that the numbers we are hearing, 600 million people without access to electricity, it should be seen as a fundamental human right issue. And we need to prioritize that and see what we can do differently from what we've been doing all these years to ensure that we are able to fast track investment and connect these people. I congratulate African Development Bank and the World Bank for their vision, 300 million. It's something that we must all get on board. If we can connect 300 million people through grid extension, through off-grid solutions in the next 3 years, in the next 4 years, in the next 5 years, I think the narrative will change. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent point. That's coming up at the end of the month, right? 27th, 28th in Tanzania. So I'm glad you flagged it. It's could be a milestone. And could you imagine by the end of the decade that we get 300 million more connected? I'm still surprised we have 2 billion people not using clean cooking oil around the world, which is an embarrassment to all of us, I think. Mr. Colin Hewells, Deputy Coordinator of Power Africa, please. Thanks. Nice to see you.
Thank you. On behalf of the U.S. government, I want to thank IRENA and APRA for your leadership in Africa's energy transition in partnership with our government partners here today. We really appreciate this relationship. In partnership with IRENA and Power Africa supports APRA approved projects wherever possible to assist APRA countries to realize their renewable energy ambitions. Just a reminder, Power Africa is an interagency initiative representing 12 U.S. government agencies that operate in support of energy development in Africa. In Sierra Leone, Power Africa is providing transaction advisory support to the 27 megawatt Metamai hydroelectric project through the U.S. Agency for International Development, which is providing gap financing currently. In addition to the USAID support to Sierra Leone, the Millennium Challenge Corporation recently approved a new $480 million energy sector compact that's focused on distribution and access, power sector reform, and development of a transmission backbone in the Southern Corridor. The Development Finance Corporation is also recently approved a $292 million loan to support SECA Generation Limited, which is an entity that will construct and operate the 105 megawatt Nant power plant in Freetown. DFC's support to Nant is expected to nearly double the electricity generation capacity of Sierra Leone and provide reliable baseload generation to support increased deployment of renewable sources. Secondly, in Kenya, Power Africa, through the DFC, or the Development Finance Corporation, provided financing and reinsurance to support construction of the $232 million 100 megawatt Kapeto wind power project, along with a 15-mile transmission line to connect it to the national grid. Power Africa will also provide legal and financial modeling to support Kaptegat Solar to integrate their BESS system into the project. Kapeto 3 is one of the 2 Kenya projects that were selected to participate in the October IRENA APRA Forum, and they submitted their applications to the EdTAF platform. Kaptegat Solar is one of several Kenya projects that have successfully completed their applications with Power Africa's support, and we're pleased that IRENA is now reviewing these submissions for further assistance. Finally, Power Africa congratulates Djibouti and Mozambique for joining APRA, and we look forward to joining the country consultations with both of you. Thank you.
Thanks again, Colin. I appreciate that. Our final minister for this session, Mr. Gozea Mengistu, is the Senior Energy Advisor to the Ministry and the Minister of Water and Energy of Ethiopia. Welcome. Thanks. And I'm going to bring in the African Development Bank. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I also join others by appreciating IRENA and APRA for preparing this very important action plan. Having said this, I think this action plan will not be implemented by the public sector alone. So the private sector has to come. For the private sector, the enabling environment, the regulatory framework is important. For example, in our country, recently our government has launched the homegrown economic reform agenda. This is a very aggressive agenda and which requires significant knowledge and financial assistance from development partners. On this occasion, I would like to recognize at least World Bank for sizable contribution for our, the overall economic, socio-economic, and energy sector program in the country. Especially, this is based on development policy objective. So this development policy objective has at least three main outputs. One is to improve the lives of our communities in socio-economic development, to enhance shared prosperity in the country and even outside the country through interconnection, and of course, to confront the climate agenda. So these are very, very, very important. For this, there are a lot of macroeconomic, measures recently the government is doing. One, government already opened the financial sector for foreign investors to come. In the past, it was closed. Now, our government already opened, the foreign banks to come and to open in the country. And recently, maybe last week, the government already launched Ethiopian Security Exchange through Ethiopian, capital market. So it's already launched. So all this, it's a new chapter for the country, especially for capital market, which we don't have the capital market in the past. So when we see, the energy sector as a whole, we are one of the least interconnected country in the world, in sub-Saharan Africa. More than 60 million people still don't have electricity access. This is a huge number. It's very easy to, to speak the numbers, but, many people are suffering with this. And even the clean cooking is not more than 10%. More than 90 million people don't have access to clean cooking. So it is an alarming situation. So we have to do, that's why the government is working very hard to engage the private sector in our energy sector. We are working with power sector reform program, especially in our power sector reform program. Two important issues are, already identified. One is energy security. Energy security is important. In our case, we are not, transiting from fossil fuel to, renewables, but we have hydro-based. But we want to, increase the renewable energy mix in the country. That is because we are already interconnected with our neighbors and beyond. So we have to settle the energy security for the country and for our neighbors. And at the same time, energy access is our serious program. Yeah. So this, especially this type of, blueprint, it has to be turned from, promise or commitment into action. Otherwise, it will not help us.
I've just been working off of memory. It's 140 million people in Ethiopia. Am I right? 140?
No. It's more than 123 million.
23 million. So over half don't have access to energy. I just wanted to clarify for the record, which is a lot. Mr. Kariuki, thank you for your patience. Be cognizant of time here because of we have to finish here in the next 25 minutes. So it's a tight one, but I wanted to certainly hear your voice on this issue of guarantees and the role of the regional development banks and the World Bank, for example. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, I also would like to really thank Irina for this initiative. I think I must say that, first of all, APRA is a really welcome addition to efforts to accelerate renewable energy increase. And I do believe that it could even have greater impact if we were able to synergize with existing facilities, such as the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa that was mentioned earlier. or the Alliance for Green Infrastructure that I referred to earlier today. This is because it's important that we avoid fragmentation. And because, for example, the gentleman from Denmark has already recognized that CEFA is a tried and proven entity as far as renewable energy is concerned. And indeed, I just wanted to highlight what I mentioned earlier in the morning, that already CEFA with $533 million is likely to mobilize about, leverage about $15 billion and generate about 10 gigawatts of renewable energy and provide 5 million new connections. So that's one area that I do believe that by synergizing APRA with CEFA, we probably would be able to get slightly more. And the same applies to the Alliance for Green Infrastructure in Africa. Again, here, as I mentioned earlier in the morning, what we are hoping to do is to mobilize about $500 million for purposes of project preparation and project development with a view to making projects bankable. And here, I want just to highlight the potential that we could have. And you just alluded to the issue of being able to provide additional sort of concession funding. Last year, it's only 2023, 2 mega projects. One is 200 megawatts Komombo in Egypt and 100 megawatts Kairouan in Tunisia were about to unravel and fail to reach financial close on account of significant EPC price increases due to geopolitical reasons and supply chain disruptions. But by sort of contriving products that are able to crowd in the private sector and de-risk projects, we were able to save those projects through CEFA intervention. So I think that's what I'm saying. If we need to find ways of synergizing or leveraging, APRA leveraging on existing facilities with a view to ensuring that we proceed on this basis. But the one thing that has also been mentioned, and I just want to highlight very quickly, is the issue of Mission 300. As I said, this is an initiative between the World Bank and ourselves, and with our partners from Rockefeller Foundation. The idea here is to provide new access to 300 million people by 2030. And the idea here is that we are saying we cannot be able to achieve this through business as usual. It's not possible. We must be able to undertake dramatic energy reforms in order to be able to provide the enabling environment that is required to be able to accelerate increased renewable energies and uptake of renewable energies on the continent. And as I said early in the morning, the private sector aspect of it is integral to this effort. The issue of interconnections is key to this particular process. The viability of our utilities is a centerpiece of this particular effort, because this is how you are going to be able to attract investments. Let me stop there, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your interjections here and also clarifying and underscoring the importance of Mission 300 as well. Thank you very much for joining the conversation here. I'd like to call on DT Jewel, Director General of the European Commission. In the second session here, we're addressing how APRA can engage new partners through a holistic approach that aligns their contributions with Africa's broader energy transition and the green industrialization initiatives. You want to share your thoughts from the European Commission on joining the family, if you will, and the conditions you're looking for. Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. And congratulations to APRA and everyone engaged on the significant progress made over this last year. It's just a year since we met here. We are very glad from the European Union to provide political support backing for APRA. It aligns fully with the different initiatives that we have been spearheading and supporting in terms of the global energy transition and indeed access to energy for those that do not have it. So also full support to the Mission 300 and our President's campaign on renewable, scaling up renewable energy for Africa that is that is ongoing. APRA, as others have also said, is a critical instrument, has proven already. It aligns well with a number of other initiatives. We've got our target of tripling renewable energy by 2030, as we agreed at COP28. We've got the Global Energy Transition Forum, where the first meeting is scheduled to take place in Davos just a few weeks from now, trying to make sure we make that happen. We have a number of other initiatives ongoing, and I think that is one of the questions for all of us on how do we bring together these different initiatives, these different work strands? How do we make sure we make the best use of what is there? A number of topics have been mentioned in this session, in the first part of the session so far: the need for building skills, the need for investment into infrastructure, interconnectors and grids were mentioned, the need to look at, as you said, Mr. Vice President, at the risk perception, which at times seem to stand in the way of investments and private capital investments into countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And so we need to make sure we get that right and that we do not overestimate the risk and therefore hold back in investments. Then there are issues around the wider value chain that is part of the energy transition. It is not only about energy, it really is about all the technologies, the knowledge, the manufacturing, the local value addition that can come together with the energy transition. Last year, together with some of you here, I was participating in the UN Secretary General's panel on critical energy transition minerals, really looking at what can we do to strengthen the role of resource-rich developing countries to make sure that they benefit fully from that. And there will be follow-up work at the UN later this spring. And I think we need to bring that into the broader considerations about access to energy. It is also access to becoming part of a value chain to build growth, manufacturing, and opportunities that arise from that. So that broader context, I think, is important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being direct as well. We were going to have Her Excellency Ms. Vanya Gava from Italy as a Deputy Minister of Environment and Energy Security. Your Excellency, the Ambassador, I didn't get your first name or last name, but I'm going to let you self-introduce because we have the embarrassment of riches here. We have a plenary session going on, and I know everybody wants to get a voice here for the African Roundtable. Please.
Thank you very much. The Deputy Minister is in the plenary speaking on behalf of Italy. So thank you very much. Just I would like to underline the key role of Africa as a global partner in the energy transition. To this end, it will be important to support all of the African countries in attracting public and private investments, promoting the involvement of young generations, creating stable regulatory framework, promoting capacity building activities. So Italy is consolidating its role of energy hub for Europe to become a bridge between Europe and Africa, launching key projects such as Elmed interconnection for renewables between Italy and Tunisia, and South 2 corridor for green hydrogen between Algeria, Tunisia, Italy, Austria, and Germany. Moreover, as you may know, Italy's commitment for Africa countries is reinforced by the allocation of around 5.5 billion euros under the so-called Mattei Plan, creating mutually beneficial partnerships. So, and during the G7 under the Italian presidency, for the first time in history, Africa has represented a great fundamental priority for the G7. So G7 countries adopted the initiative Energy for Growth in Africa, aimed at encouraging the implementation of bankable projects in Africa. At the same time, the G7 Energy and Environmental Ministers communique adopted in Venaria in Italy on April 2024 emphasized the need for supporting the initiatives dedicated to Africa, such as the Accelerated Partnership for Renewable Energy in Africa, APRA, as you know. So Italy, in conclusion's commitment to contribute to the position of Africa's key actor of global energy transition will be ensured also by building synergies and cooperation by the means of strategic initiatives such as APRA. Thank you very much.
Thanks for jumping in, Ambassador. It's amazing what Italy's been doing the last 3 years, especially under the leadership of Prime Minister Maloney in the energy space and its geographical positioning. Ms. Tina van der Straten, Your Excellency, the Federal Ministry of Energy of Belgium. I just want to remind our speakers you're doing a fantastic job. We're just running against the clock a little bit, so be on the briefer side if you can. Thank you very much.
I would be happy to be on the briefer side because everyone is anxious to go into the plenary session to deliver the national statement. What a great session this was, with real great examples and sharing expertise, and also this continuing reflection how we can deliver on projects on the ground in Africa. And the Achilles heel of the transition is, of course, cost and construction of energy infrastructure, not in the least grids. And it's urgent, and always in the first session, to reduce the cost of capital across the globe, and specifically also in Africa. How have we been dealing with this? The projects we are active, for example, in Namibia, with my esteemed colleague Tom Alwine, on a very ambitious green hydrogen project. We are also present in Mozambique, and we, on a continued basis, have been looking for co-benefits, and also to define the central values of the projects that we support, that we co-develop, notably the assurance of local ownership, but also mutual beneficial relations, and so that projects are very well embedded in national priorities, both in Belgium, but for the Namibian and the Mozambique project, but specifically Namibia, also aligned with the Namibian priorities. And these are most and for all people centered, to create opportunities to have a better welfare, both in Namibia and in Belgium. So the APRA framework, but also coming together around a table in a smaller format than the plenary session, is of utmost importance to keep thinking about how we can move forward. And on a closing note, I really want to echo some of the elements that were approached in the first session of this panel. A real shout out to the financial institutions to set up de-risking instruments, because as energy ministers, we can not de-risk everything on our own. Project developers come to see us to have project stability, stable regulatory frameworks, to have support mechanisms, but we cannot de-risk everything within the energy domain. And so we really need that multilateral banks, the World Bank, but also IMF, that they become real energy banks, climate banks, and that they should really more incorporate the notion of universal energy access. And they do so. It's not that they are not, and Tom gave examples that really work, but we need this even closer relationship between finance ministers and energy ministers, so that we can both achieve on the targets to have a universal, affordable energy access to all.
Great. That's the first time I've heard that. We should have the focus of the energy banks here for development. It's very true because of the access that was raised here by our African colleagues in the room. I'd like to bring in some of the commercial investors. Hussein Matar is the Senior Director for Business Development, and we've had a chance to liaise in Central Asia, where you're very active as well. How would you like to make your contribution? The mic's very directional, as you know. Thanks.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure being here. I'll make it very brief. At Masdar, we deeply committed to APRA's mission, and our work across the continent reflects such belief, and reflects the transformative power and collaboration and innovative solutions that we are putting into the continent. In March 2023, Masdar, through its joint venture Infinity Power, became the largest operator of renewable energy in Africa. After the acquisition of Lekela Power, we increased our operational capacity in Africa to 1.2 gigawatt of wind and solar projects across 3 core markets: South Africa, Senegal, and Egypt. Today, I am proud to tell you that through Infinity Power, we have succeeded to secure additional 2.4 gigawatt of renewable energy project, tripling our capacity in the continent, and in line with the historical consensus in Dubai to triple the capacity of the parties. These projects are not, or those projects are more than just energy projects. Of course, we believe those represent tangible progress towards energy access, job creation, and industrial growth, which is a cornerstone for Africa's sustainable development. I would like to conclude that we are at Masdar committed to work with APRA's countries to reflect that experience we had in those three markets into the APRA's countries, to work with the governments, to work with our partners, to work with development banks, and find solutions that will allow us to increase our footprints and develop further renewable projects in such countries. And I'll stop here and thanks everyone for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Hussein. Ms. Yasuyuko Nishimura is the Director for Resource Security at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Japan. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be given this opportunity to speak in this session. Japan very recently decided to provide voluntary contribution to APRA, as the Director General announced at the beginning. Japan supports the objectives of APRA for mainly two reasons. First, Africa is an important partner for Japan. Japan has long cooperated for the development of Africa. More than 30 years ago, we launched the TICAD, the Tokyo International Conference for African Development. We will convene the ninth round of TICAD this August. And since its beginning, TICAD has adopted the basic principles of African ownership and international partnership. So APRA's approach as an African country-led international partnership is also aligned with our approach. And in the energy field, Japan has extended assistance in enhancing renewable energy and energy access in Africa. These include projects such as power generation, off-grid electricity, and electricity access in rural areas in APRA member countries. So second, Japan is committed to the target of tripling renewables globally. Africa will be very important players in achieving this target by 2030. Africa has a vast potential for renewable energy. Tapping into its full potential is critical in achieving both the sustainable economic growth of Africa and the global climate goals together. So Africa also plays an important role in critical minerals, increasing, diversifying, and stabilizing the supply of critical minerals and its supply chains are indispensable for accelerating clean energy transitions. At the same time, critical mineral development must be sustainable and compliant with the high ESG standards. So realizing the renewable energy potential is necessary for high standard mineral development, local value addition, and economic diversification. So APRA is very much aligned with what Japan has been working on and will continue to work on. That's why we decided to support APRA. And what we expect is that APRA identify and fill the gap and the challenges where the other existing bilateral and multilateral corporations have not yet addressed, so that we can accelerate the energy transition in Africa effectively and efficiently. For example, as many comments touched upon, investment environment is important. And we hope that APRA mobilizes its expertise and refers to other members' good practices to address the issue of favorable investment environment for renewable energy development. So in conclusion, Japan fully supports the objectives of APRA, and we hope to closely cooperate with IRENA, APRA, and the APRA members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nishimura. Sorry for the signal there, but we have to keep the last interventions at 2 minutes, please, because the plenary is underway. Mr. Frederick Wieselink is representing the Netherlands here. 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be very short, and thank you for being here and talk about the potential of Africa on renewable energy. I would highlight just one specific topic, but I think contributes to Africa's broader energy transition and also is contributing to APRA's mission, and that is green hydrogen. I think green hydrogen will have, between Africa and the EU, so to say, have mutual benefits. It's a transition for both continents. By importing green hydrogen, the EU can accelerate the transition and at the same time contribute to the development of renewable energy, infrastructure, create local supply and value chains and jobs in Africa. And hereby, it is essential, regardless if it's for domestic usage or for export, that projects have local sustainable impact. And quite a few African countries have reached out to the Netherlands for collaboration in the field of international hydrogen supply chains. And in our MOUs with these countries, we include explicit reference to the UN Social Development Goals. And we do see there that stakeholders in certain countries focus on activities that help to build social trust. For example, Invest International supports the government of Namibia with financing capacity building for implementation of hydrogen policies. So finally, achieving these mutual benefits requires a coordinated approach from all the governments, financial institutions, donor and private capital, and we hope that we can contribute to create more bankable projects. So to end, we hope that today's discussion and the impressive first year of APRA can contribute to this. My government, the Dutch government, is ready to play its part as a stable partner for Africa. Thanks.
Thanks for being so brief. And our last speaker is from AMEA Power. And we had a confusion between Masdar and AMEA before. So let me welcome Hussein Matar. Yeah, thanks very much. And just 2 minutes, please. Thank you. And sorry to be so brief with all the great work you're doing, by the way. It's been very good. It's working.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So I'm a power company where we have a portfolio of around 6,000 megawatts now at all stages, including in particular wind, solar, and battery storage. We are a company that's currently focused in 15 countries in Africa, and we're trying to increase that number. We have what we take pride of in particular now is the hybrid solution of bringing wind, solar, and battery together all in one in a particular area to try and provide up to 80% baseload solution to some companies there. We are also in the green hydrogen space and water desal, and I want to jump in straight with the APRA. I know 2 minutes is coming up to an end now, but I think there's a list of things that APRA can help us in, absolute massive list. But I just want to, if I were to pick one today, to be the transmission. So there are many companies out there that are really keen on developing and generating the electrons, the green electrons, but not so many companies and investors are keen on taking on the transmission. And that's where I think APRA could definitely get involved, try to find solutions and try to improve. But that's the one key aspect of what I see when we're doing our trips in Africa generally is we're trying to find solutions, is that it always is the bottleneck, is the transmission and the grids, and they're very old. They need new ones. They need increasing in different locations, and that's the one thing I would love to see maybe on the next session. Thank you.
Great, and thanks for your patience today as well. I'm going to hand it back to the Vice President. You know we're under time, but I thought the interventions were excellent all the way through, so I appreciate that and the extra 10 minutes we had to use.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. De Pretorius, for guiding this discussion. Yeah, I agree with you. It was really quite an insightful discussion. And also to thank all my colleagues for your inputs and insights. We will be compiling some feedback report, which we're going to share with in the plenary for tomorrow. But this, for me, really, this has been insightful deliberation, and I do appreciate the engagement with which various speakers, both from APRA countries and also just from our partners, for all what you have, your intervention. And therefore, in my capacity as Minister of Mines and Energy and also in an APRA country, I can only really echo the needs, the challenges, but also the opportunity that my fellow ministers have expressed around this table. It is really, I think, encouraging to see how the various partners are aligning your intervention with what we want to do under APRA. So we appreciate it very much. So I therefore then just wish to thank everybody for participation. And this comes to the conclusion of agenda number 7 of our agenda. So thank you very much.